The idea here is that we're going to start combining all these elements that we had prior into sort of combination moves. We're talking about a little bit about psychology as well. Lead, follow, arcs, parallax, zollies. You've seen 2 of those so far. Talk also about how important it is to create movement within the frame. So one of the lost arts in cinema these days is that everyone runs around with a movie and says, look at my fancy moves. They've kind of forgotten to focus on one of the most important moves, is that of the blocking of actors within the frame, and that motivates movement. So a lot of us are doing things backward these days. We're going to talk also about the placement of the camera. We'll talk about the psychology and style, a POV shot, breaking the fourth wall, and different camera styles. And one of my favorite things to discuss, motivated versus unmotivated movement. I want you to watch this clip, one of my favorite from The Big Lebowski, because I think it shows restraint. I love the Coen brothers, and I love Roger Deakins. If you watch Fargo, there's very little camera movement. It's very stationary. A lot of locked off stuff, or on sticks with a fluid head. Notice how they move when they need to. They don't move when they don't need to. They're showing restraint. They're not just moving for the sake of movement. Watch this sequence and notice how every move does complement the action. So we boom down and follow the sexy leg and sock action. Locked off here, so we can notice the details of the ring. Start a slight move in. You can see that wonderful little detail. Locked off again. Notice the background action and the foreground wiping right here. That sets us up for this pure cinematic goodness right here. Notice this little push zoom over here, little rack. Jesus. And now as we slide right, a little push, we're going to follow the ball. And now on the reverse, he's going to do a little dance for us. You don't want to move on this because you want to appreciate every little beat. We'll push in here. Back to him. Look over, a little pan. Notice a nice slide here. Rare slide, it's pure slide. You'll notice in the background someone's going to start sitting down right there. Cut back to him. Little wipe in the foreground, and that finishing of that motion where the extra sits back, and then just that wonderful look on John Goodman's face. A little pivot, followed by a push in.
Creep can roll, man.
Notice how we're stopping for the dialogue. No movement within dialogue. Let it do its own thing.
Sex offender with a record. He did 6 months of Chino for exposing himself to an 8-year-old. When he moved to Hollywood, he had to go door to door to tell everyone he was a pederast.
What's a pederast, Walter?
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
Yeah, that's just cinematic gold there. But notice the restraint. Notice that during the dialogue, the camera's not moving. Why? You want to pay attention to the dialogue. You want to connect with the actors. We'll be talking throughout the day how, generally speaking, the way an audience connects with an actor is through the eyes. So if you're doing this long, steady cam move around an actor during a very impactful scene, and you say, I don't know, I just never connected with that character, it's probably because you never slowed down and pushed in towards the eyes. We'll go over that many times today. All right. One of the concepts I want to talk about to that point is shared cinematic language. When you see this shot, what do you think of immediately? Shawshank, right away. So the idea here is there's no such thing as copying or stealing or plagiarism in cinema. These moves don't belong to anyone. Cuts don't belong to anyone. We all use 1 or 2 dozen moves throughout cinema, and we repeat them over and over again. And a fancy way of stealing is to say that you're paying homage. All right, so you'll hear very often Spielberg or Scorsese saying, this is an homage to this filmmaker in that scene. It's perfectly acceptable. All right, so don't be afraid to see something that you like or a scene or a shot and copy it, but hopefully you'll make it even better. And hopefully it won't be gratuitous. So here is Paul Newman in Cool Hand Luke. So there's that shot, and going back to Shawshank, you'll notice a prisoner escaping, defying. In the rain. So is that to say that Frank Darabont looked at Cool Hand Luke and said, I want that shot? Who knows? Doesn't matter. Because that idea of, going up towards the sky is a universal one. The move is a universal one. Makes sense. Okay? Who knows? Doesn't matter. Moving on, we're going to talk about leading and following. We're going to talk about arcs, not narrative, but within motion, and parallax and zollies. First term I want to cover is a lead. Let me have the student come up real quick. Sir, if you don't mind coming. Right up here. The reason I say lead and follow is I've heard it use confusion. If I walk with you, just look at me, and I'll backpedal and you walk with me. I'm leading him. Okay, leading suggests that we stay equidistant as well. Okay, whereas if you turn around, I'm now following you through a scene. Simple stuff. The reason I pointed out is that a DP friend of mine was asked by a director, stay up here with me if you don't mind. Just stay right over here, and I'll show another example real quick. He was told by his director that he wanted to follow the character throughout the scene. So the DP lit an entire set. So go ahead and turn around if you don't mind. Like this. And he's a Steadicam operator as well. And he's ready to yell action. And he frames up. And the director says, I don't see the back. Look forward. Look forward. I don't want to see the back of his head. You said you wanted to follow him. Yeah. I want to follow him throughout the scene. No. That's leading. Whose fault was that? Who got blamed? Okay, DP always gets blamed. Because now I have the camera shadow in my main character. Even though the director communicated imprecisely, it's still my fault. So when you're not clear, clarify. And hopefully you can understand the importance of clearly communicating to your crew. Thanks very much. Okay? Here is a lead. One of the most famous leads, the best first half of a film in history. Full Metal Jacket. Ask yourself why Kubrick did this. This is the most important part now. We're transferring away from moving through space to the purpose of the move. Why shoot this, leading the character the entirety of the shot? As opposed to, let's say, put a camera at one of the corners of the room and pan left, have him cross and pan right, just follow him with the camera stationary. Go ahead and watch it. Let me know what you think.
I am Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, your senior drill instructor. From now on, you will speak only when spoken to. And the first and last words out of your filthy sewers will be, sir. Do you maggots understand that?
Sir, yes, sir.
Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Sir, yes, sir.
If you ladies leave my island, if you survive recruit training, you will be a weapon. You will be a minister of death praying for war. But until that day, you are pukes. You are the lowest form of life on earth. You are not even human fucking beings. You are nothing but unorganized, grabastic pieces of amphibian shit. Because I am hard, you will not like me. But the more you hate me, the more you will learn.
Okay, so why lead your actor?
It keeps him more important than everybody else.
He's center of attention, more important. What also is happening? Yeah, you discover and people get smaller. What's the real purpose? No, you don't see his perspective. Yes, and you're backing up. You cannot escape this guy. He is front and center. He never leaves the frame. If I'm off to the side of the scene, panning with him, what does that do in terms of building and releasing? As he comes closer to me, it builds. Once he passes me, it releases. So that's one choice the director could have made, to build and release. With him, it's a constant pressure that cannot be escaped. Does that make sense? There's no build, there's no release. You're in his grill, too close for comfort. There's nowhere to hide, just as like a cadet cannot hide from gunnery sergeant. Make sense? So the choice of move makes perfect sense in this case. To stay on him, no cuts, nowhere to hide, no variation in distance, and also you notice how comfortable he is in this environment. This is his world. We're moving very steadily with him as well. Make sense? Here's a follow. Again, Kubrick, this time The Shining. Why follow this kid around? What was Kubrick trying to do? This is a Steadicam in low mode on a sort of a dolly type device, Garrett Brown shooting. Why are we staying on this little kid so long? Why are we following him? It's a tour of the hotel. How do you feel? Do you know, can you draw the map right now of where we just went through? Not really. It's meant to be disconcerting because this hotel is humongous. And one of the big themes in The Shining is a maze. So Kubrick is taking you through this journey and making you appreciate just how vast this hotel is with one long shot. There's a purpose behind it. Okay? He's connecting the environments together as well. There's a great documentary you can look at, Room 237, about The Shining as well. This is an arc. An arc is very simple. If you say pivot, technically pivot is around one central point. So here I am pivoting, right? So cameras pivot, okay? An arc is if I were to draw a string from him to me, I'm arcing around him. All right, so it's a half circle, quarter circle, whatever. But an arc is a very common term. It's done all the time. Guess what does an arc do? It makes you feel what? Parallax, right? It makes you feel the three-dimensionality of the environment. Here's an arc from The Untouchables. It's actually 2 shots cut in the middle, one wide, one medium. Notice how as we arc to the right, or we would say counterclockwise, how we reveal Elliot Ness, his character. But more importantly, notice what happens in the foreground right about here. That's what we call eye candy. It's meant to make the environment look three-dimensional, to feel more rich. Because what? His speech is boring. I don't really care about this speech. I want to get in and out of it. It's not what he's saying that matters. It's all these people surrounding him, all the reporters and photographers who don't know who he is, don't take him seriously. That's what the scene's about. It's not about what he's saying. Does that make sense? So you're removing the attention from what he's saying and juxtaposing the environment he's in and the incredulity of the people around him. Notice how he went from a wide to a medium or tight, back to the same end of the first wide, and now we lead him out of the room, right? And leave that scene behind. So that was an arc. Here is another parallax move similar to the Christian Bale Empire of the Sun, this time done with a much tighter lens. From the piano, Jane Campion. One little trick here, you'll notice how you can't really notice the motion on her, but you notice it on the background. That's because they're more likely than not had her turn her body at the same time to pivot, to match the camera's movement. Make sense? But you feel how it looks like her world is twirling around her, which it literally is, at least in her life. So just a quick little director's trick, just like I had that actor peel off in the opposite direction of the camera to add more dynamic move to the scene. That's what Jane Campion did here. I'm going to show you this Vertigo Zolly. Before I do that, I want to talk to you, if you don't mind coming right over here with me, about some of the decisions you make as a director or a DP. If you can start right over here and just go ahead and just walk past me and go to your seat and sit down when I call it. Okay? So as a director or a DP, you have a choice. You want to cover this scene, forget my shadow for a second, and I have 2 choices. I have an easy way to get him to his seat, and I have a difficult way. And actually, because of that monitor, I'm going to cheat you back a little bit this way. All right? So what's the easy way to get him to his seat? Go ahead. Just going to pan with him and sidestep, stay with him, and sit down. Okay? Very nice, smooth motion. Come back to 1. The Michael Bay way of doing it is this. Let's slide a little bit this way so I don't trip into anything. Here we go. Ready? And action. Okay? Exact same start and end, counter motion the entire time. The whole world goes, whoosh, and we sit. So whenever you find yourself, when you design shots that feel like that, you're like, oh my God, don't forget, very often doing it the opposite way will be much smoother. Don't fight. Okay? Or if you want to make it sexy and visually stimulating, know that you can go from just doing something like this, sidestep over here, and boom down, versus doing the full craziness. Okay? Quick example. That's directing, it's directing motion, thinking about little things like that. How do you make it as dynamic as possible? Here is our Zolly, the first time ever in cinema, Alfred Hitchcock in Vertigo. See how that makes you feel? That's the idea. Totally effective in being disconcerting to the audience. Here's a really interesting one from E.T. So we're going to push the camera in and zoom out slowly because we're having a big shift in the story here. Finally, NASA and God knows who is going to come in, and we're going to see the cheesiest camera in history of cinema come into frame. And notice, again, the device of the keys being used throughout the film as a connector. It connects all these different scenes together. You always know that one guy from the initial landing has the keys to here to when he finally walks in on ET. And because of that device or that connector, you know that's the same person throughout. Make sense? Okay, here's a really interesting Zolly from Road to Perdition. Jude Law's in the center of the frame there. He's walking towards the camera. Because of that Zolly, it looks like he's walking in space, that he's not actually moving forward. Very interesting use of it right here. See that? Pretty cool, huh? So what does that tell you about his character immediately? It's the first time you ever see him. It's not normal. And he also photographs dead people for a living, freezes them in time and eternity, and he's kind of frozen in time himself. But from the first time you see this character on screen, this is the first time you see him, you know he's just not quite normal. Make sense? It's subtle, it's interesting. I venture to say that most audiences that see that don't even get what's happening. You just go like, whoa, that was kind of funny, and then in comes the character. Pretty cool little way to use a camera move. Simplicity of never moving the camera, but moving your actors. So, again, this comes back to blocking. You need to study the art of how to block your actors and block action within your frame. It's so important to creating a dynamic frame. In this case, an actor will just lean in. Simple. That's how he comes into frame. Or he'll lower his newspaper. Simplest rule in the book, simplest way to keep going. Used even in Schindler's List. These are Jews in the occupied, I think it's Germany, Austria. And they're meeting in a church to conduct business, which is legal. And we're going to reveal Liam Neeson's character. Just with a simple little camera move, but mostly the characters. Simple stuff, don't take it for granted. It'll make your scenes so much richer to do things like this, as opposed to just doing a random pan or a random slide. Here is also the angle you choose, an overhead angle. In this case, on Robert De Niro, playing Al Capone in The Untouchables. Brian De Palma shot this first shot of the film of Capone. And what he's trying to say is what? What do you know about Capone's character just from the use of this angle? Center of the world, center of attention, very powerful. All the way down to De Palma put a sun down here to represent Louis XIV, the sun god. All right, so all these little details are being paid attention to. Everyone's at his beck and call. We boom down slowly, cue the action of the reporters.
An article which I believe appeared in a newspaper asked why, since you are, or it would seem that you are in effect the mayor of Chicago, you've not simply been appointed to that position.
Here's one of the first pieces of how you use a move to satisfy coverage. What does that mean? Well, the basic coverage principles generally are you go from a wide to a medium to a tight. Everyone knows that, right? What can you do? Can you do it in one move? You went from a wide establishing down to a medium close-up of Capone within the move. So if you can satisfy not only motion, not only psychology or moving through space, and coverage principles within the move, that's where you get the gold star as a director. Does that make sense? You're doing a multitude of things within one move, which just was done by Brian De Palma. So here we are again, from below. Nicholson is losing his mind.
Wendy.
Everything looks upside down. Inside the meat locker.
You got a big surprise coming to you. You're not going anywhere.
Good old Jack. So, great scene from The Shining. Look at high and low now. Again, just selecting the angle relative to your subject is critical as a director. First of all, you'll notice the reflection in the screen. You notice those kind of Excel data bars, kind of like jail bars, not happenstance. Nor is the fact that the main colors in this palette are red, white, and blue, because this is a mockery of Americana, or I mean, it's not necessarily mockery, but definitely some sort of statement. And notice more importantly, in this case, high and low. Every time we look at him, we're from above. Every time he looks at his boss, he's from below. Watch this entire scene.
Hello, this is Lester Burnham from Medium Monthly
Obviously, the person
Magazine.
who's
I'm
high is
calling
in
for
power,
Mr.
the person
Tamlin,
who's low is
please.
not.
Well, we're all under a deadline here. See, there's some basic information about your product launch that isn't even covered in your press release, and yeah. Okay. Can I ask you a question? Who is Tamlin? Does he exist? Because he doesn't ever seem to come in.
One of my favorite responses to you have 5 minutes
Okay,
coming
I'll
up.
give you a number. It's 5.
Notice his boss
01
is on the left side of frame,
Lester Burnham.
impeding on
Thank you.
our headspace, on his personal space.
You got a minute?
You would think he'd be on the right side of frame
I got
normally.
5.
It's done on purpose. For you, I have 5.
Yeah, I'm sure you can understand our need to cut corners around here.
Oh, sure. Times are tight. You gotta.
How'd that make you feel? It seems so small in the frame, from above, the light going right through his crotch.
Like the time
Now
the
he
store
stands
rolled out,
up. How does that make you feel?
Hard to pay for that hooker.
This is him.
She used the card numbers and stayed at the same Regis for what was it, like 3 months?
That's unsubstantiated gossip.
$50,000.
He's challenging back. You notice how he got bigger in frame?
Because Craig has to pay women to fuck him. Jesus.
Now he sits back down, and we level things off with the blackmail. So notice how it's a fantastic scene, great acting, great dialogue. But part and parcel of that scene is the height being used relative to the subject, in terms of the camera's angle relative to the subject, and distance as well, and size and frame. All these principles that are subtle in and of themselves are really effective when combined together. A lot of the stuff we've been hitting on together is being combined now into a very effective scene. Here is a quick example of how you personify a building. How do you make a building look scary? Shoot from below, shoot down on your main character. Simple as pie. It's meant, there's no tension here. They're in a Hollywood lot. The building doesn't have any personality. It's a piece of, series of blocks of wood. But because of the angle that you shoot it from relative to the subject, you can personify a house and create this anticipation, this nervousness within your audience. So now we're going to talk a little bit about a POV shot as well as the fourth wall. Also considerations. This is both a POV and a high-low angle. How does this make you feel? Not so hot. No one likes to have a gun pointed in their face, let alone Ray Liotta's character, let alone the audience. So Scorsese is doing this expertly.
Crazy?
He's cheating on her. This is how she confronts him. She definitely gets her point across.
Karen, take it easy. Okay?
Do you love her? Do you?
Notice that Scorsese is going to cut away here to release the tension momentarily that's been building right there. Release it a little bit, come right back to it on this shot,
Please be careful.
and then cut to a series of details that only help rebuild it.
How could I hurt him?
When you
Couldn't
see
even bring
this
myself
detail
to
shot, you
lose
see
him.
how close
The
that
truth
trigger is
was
to firing.
That no matter
It
how
adds
bad I
another layer
felt,
of tension.
I was still very attracted to him.
You're afraid that gun's
Why
going to
should
go
I
off when
give
she
him
moves
to
her
someone
finger.
else? Why should she win?
None of this is happenstance. It's all by design. In terms of the high-low, the POV. Here's another great POV again from Alien. I don't know about you, but if I'm out in space and I see this little thing open up, I ain't sticking my head in there. This guy's not so bright, so he's going to become a gestation pod for this thing, and you're going to look down at your chicken cutlet there. I'm not sticking my head in there, but I guess this guy is in a POV shot. And you notice how we cut back and forth in and out of the POV to really wake you guys up and freak you out. I used to have the volume up on this and everyone would jump out of their seat. So you should consider yourselves lucky. My crew complained. They're like, freaks us out every time. All right, fine, I'll lower it. Fourth wall. You notice there are 3 walls on this set. The fourth wall is what? The camera, us. The moment that we look into the camera's lens, the magic of cinema is gone. right? Look at this scene. John Hughes, great director, great writer.
They bought it.
The relationship has fundamentally changed once an actor looks right into the lens. So be very careful when you do it. Do it super sparingly. The eye lines, unless you mean them to, should never go straight into the lens. Make sense? Especially in an interview. Looks very awkward. Rack focus, something as simple as how you choose to focus a lens can have an effect, create a little bit of tension. When you first see these fingers, not exactly sure what's going on, then we rack to the eyes. All right, that's very simple. But the point is, during a dialogue scene, your focus should always be set on the person who's talking. If you don't, it's either because the first day he has fallen asleep or making a mistake, or what it does mean is you're actually saying something as a director. In the same way that if I'm on you on a shot, and I hear, I never show you what the quack, 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 quack cause is, what am I doing as a director? To you as the audience. I'm just staying on his face. You're building tension because it's off screen. The sound, something as simple as that, staying on the frame of him. Whereas if I immediately cut to the monster, there's no tension. I'm not building anything. Let alone if I show that's a grandmother with her walker walking. You know, you can mess with the audience based on what you do or don't show. Nothing to do with motion necessarily, but definitely has to do with directing. Here's a great example of selective focus from Road to Perdition. Paul Newman's character has just chastised his son in front of everybody here, played by Daniel Craig, who's sitting very still as they all walk away, kind of leaving him in the dust. We're going to start a slow push towards Daniel Craig, but notice what happens to the focus, most importantly. On the right side of the frame, you'll see Paul Newman has his arms around Tom Hanks' character. Look at poor old Daniel Craig. He's completely out of focus, and now we rack back to him. What does that tell you? It tells you that he's being left out of the picture, that his father has more of an affinity for a hired employee, Tom Hanks' character, than his own son, just by the use of selective focus. So you see how a lot of these little things that you took for granted could be very powerful in cinema. Here's another example here of that. We have the famous scene for The Godfather, and look at Don Corleone in the foreground. This gentleman is asking him to exact revenge. He's going to ask him, what do you mean? He's going to step up and whisper something into his ear. Notice what happens to the focus. What happens to the focus? Nothing. It stays out of focus. Can you hear what they're saying? No. Why is that? It's a secret. The director, Coppola, is saying, that's La Cosa Nostra. That's our world. You're not invited. It's really interesting psychology, simply down with the choice of focusing or not. Camera styles are very important, too, in terms of motion. I want you to study this scene from Atonement. These two characters have been in love for years. He's very stiff and steady, British, not moving, very proper. So is she. It's a stalemate. No one's making a move. Building tension. Clearly uncomfortable. Finally, the camera starts to move very steadily on a dolly or a Steadicam towards the characters. Tension builds. It's slow. It's constant, steady. And she finally turns around. Notice the eyes. You can see the eyes going towards her lips, which builds tension, right? You know a kiss is coming whenever you see the eyes of the actor going around from eyes to lips to eyes. Still very smooth, steady motion on a dolly track or a Steadicam. But the moment they kiss, notice the change in camera movement. Right there. You see how much more fluid it is? It's handheld now. And the direction you would give your handheld operators as a director is go crazy, follow the action, try and pick up a hand or something and follow the motion down, because as you get more and more passionate, so does the camera. You would tell your AC, I want you to lose focus. I want to feel passion here. I don't want everything tack sharp. So they're completely out of focus. The hand's not even in focus. No one cares because this is all about passion. It's messy. It's dirty. So the style matches the story or the function of the story. Notice how much more dynamic the camera is here, how much more alive it is, in direct correlation with their passion. That one shot of her would have been a lot less sexy if it was tack sharp. All right? So your style of camera has a deep impact on the content and making your audience feel that passion. If we'd stayed on a dolly the entire time, or randomly sliding back to right, or stationary, locked off, just don't feel the same thing as an audience. Great example of handheld, of course, Saving Private Ryan. It's messy, it's all over the place, it's at a Dutch angle, then it isn't. Lots of motion blur. What does this tell you about this battle just for the use of handheld? It's chaotic, it's difficult, it's not going as planned. If we shot the exact same thing on a stationary camera, you don't feel this energy. This is a mess. It's not going well at all. I could have shot this exact same scene on a Steadicam or a Techno crane, slowly pulled back. What would that suggest? It's easy. You do this every day, another battle, another victory, and you do 4 or 5 in a row on a Techno crane, just move back smoothly. It's an easy egress. And whereas this, the moment you start seeing the camera move, you understand right away this is difficult. We're going to talk quickly about motivated versus unmotivated movement. I'm going to start off with an example here from Forrest Gump. This is one of my favorite openings to a film, Robert Zemeckis. And what it speaks to me is the vision of a director, in that you have to understand that all the terms you learned today, whether you say to your operator, I want you to boom the crane down, and I want you to keep tilting down, start a slight pan right, and then eventually I'm going to want you to tilt up a little bit, end the pan, and start going pan left. You can see how important that language can be. But more importantly, you have to realize that as we shoot this, there is no feather. This feather was added in post as a CGI element. So imagine this entire sequence without a feather. And you can understand the complexity of what you're doing as a director, to have that vision to communicate that to your crew, to pull it off. And then we're going to add some other elements to it in terms of foreground, background. What we haven't talked about yet today is a relationship between a director and a first AD. First AD is their first assistant director to help coordinate all the other movement. In this case, the movement of a car. You're going to see it come towards the middle of your frame here. See the green car? Gets cued by the first AD. And then we pan off of the car. You can see the background a little bit, 2 people in the park walking. You're going to pick up Forrest Gump on the bottom left here. And then this woman starts to walk. You see it's the same car. It's perfectly timed by the first AD. This car really hits her. I never understood that. And then we have this guy walk in. Again, there is no feather. So all this is being done within the imagination. His action motivates the feather to pick up as the car motivates it to go up. This car drives into frame. Little bit of wind picks everything up as we now start to boom down in an arc motion and pan right. And we end up on the 2 feet dead on of Forrest Gump. And that's the real feather for the first time. It's in frame. We're going to boom up and rack focus to his face. Pretty cool, huh? Especially when you can appreciate there was no feather. Right? And you have to communicate that to an entire crew throughout. So that's, to me, what speaks to the vision of a great director and his or her ability to communicate with a variety of people. Because you can imagine the amount of complexity involved in that scene with the cars, the extras, the timing of the camera. You're following something that's actually not there the entire time. Okay? Also tells you a lot about Forrest Gump, how free-flowing he is, how easy it is. It informs the audience on the tone of the film or the character. Okay? Here is an example of an unmotivated move. Here we are in Alien. And ask yourself, as you watch this as an audience member, whose footsteps are you walking in?